And part 3, it's going to get a little harder for perimeter and area, but this is so fun. So this problem here, you might have questions where they're telling you what the perimeter is, they're telling you what the width of this shape is, and can you guess what they might be asking you to find out next? They might be asking you to find out what the length is. So you do have enough information on here to figure it out. It's a little bit like a code. So what I want you to remember, what we talked about earlier, is that the sides can be split into 2 sets, right? So we've got the width and the length, and then obviously this length is going to be the same as this one, and this width is going to be the same as this one. So let's imagine that we've split this rectangle into 2 parts, right? So if I do 24 divided by 2, because 24 is the length of the entire, all of the sides put together. So if I divide this whole shape into 2, that's going to give me the total of both of these sides, correct? Okay, you with me so far? So if I do 24 divided by 2, I know that's 12 because 12 times 2 is 24. So I know that the total of these 2 sides together is 12. And because I already know that this is 4, all I have to do to figure out this side is do 12 minus 4, which I know is 8. So I have just figured out that this is 8 meters. And I'm just going to play it safe. I'm going to double check that that's right by figuring out if this is 8, what would the entire perimeter be? So we're just going to double check, right? So our formula was width plus length times 2. That was our formula for perimeter. So I'm going to do 8 plus 4 is 12. Times 2 is 24 meters. So it actually works. It matches up. So now I know that my length is 8 and my width is 4. And what's cool about this is that if they also say to you, well, what is the area of this shape? And they might do that because sometimes they have lots of different steps. Then you have all the information you need. It would be width times length, which would be 8 times 4 is 32 meters squared. So here you found that, you found the length, and you've solved all the entire problem. So sometimes these problems can have lots of different components to them. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this problem right here. This problem also has some gaps, and they're going to ask you to try to figure out what the missing information is. So in this case, they're telling you that this rectangle is 27 feet squared. We know that the width is 3 because they've just told us, but we don't know what the length is. Do I have enough information? Well, of course I do, because I know that the width times the length is the area, right? And in this case, the area is 27 feet squared. And I know that my width is 3. The only thing that's missing is my length. Now, if you're doing multiplication backwards to fill in this gap, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to do 27 divided by 3 equals what? Well, 3 times 9 is 27, so that has to be a 9. So that's going to be 9 feet. So here we've got 9 feet. And once again, before I get really confident with it, I'm just going to double check that this works. So I'm going to do, well, that would be a 9. 3 times 9, 27. Is the width times the length 27? Yes, it is, and therefore it works. And also, if they were asking you to figure out the perimeter of this shape, now you also have enough information to figure out the perimeter of that rectangle. All right, and finally, for a little fun and easy one here, the squares can trip you up a little bit because you might think that you don't have enough information, but the easy thing about a square is that all the sides are the same length. So it is easier than you think. So if you had a picture of a square and they're telling you what the area is, do you have enough information to figure out what the width and the length are? Yes, you do, because you know that these two numbers have to be exactly the same. So you ask yourself, what two numbers that are exactly the same multiplied by each other equal 25? So what you could do is just go up. 2 times 2 is 4, that doesn't work. 3 times 3 is 9, that doesn't work. 4 times 4 is 16, that doesn't work. 5 times 5 is 25, bingo. 5 times 5 is 25, and you know this because that's the formula for finding the area, right? So now I know that this has to be 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. There you go.